IntellectualRadio.com, 708-223-8953. Thank you for joining me again for another show. It's good to be with everyone. I just want to let you all know that today's show is brought to you by Denasha Harrison and Ambassador O from Ambassador O Ministries, to include In the Beginning Ministries from Calvin Harrison. I appreciate the huge donation that you blessed me with on today to continue to help the show move forward. So thank you very much. Any questions or comments about any opportunities for sponsorship, please feel free to call again, 708-223-8953 here at intellectualradio.com, or 224-800-9719. So again, thank you for joining me again. Today we're going to talk about women's health. I think it's very important to highlight not only, the health being your wealth, as I talk about all the time, but to talk specifically about women's health, Black women's health, to be exact. We're going to have a caller in. Queenie Love's going to call in, and we're going to discuss her experiences that she's had of late, to include her shows. That's her babies. We started about the same time in 2015. I'll let her talk to you a little bit more about that. But before we actually get her on, I wanted to mention some things. And what I wanted to talk about specifically was, again, intellectualradio.com is not only the Denasha Harrison show. There's a whole bunch of other shows that are part of the intellectualradio.com family. So if you have not yet subscribed to intellectualradio.com, go to intellectualradio.com, hit the subscribe button, and there's a whole bunch of shows that you will be able to support on this platform. Feed your brain is the motto for this show, is the motto for this station. And we want you all to take that literally. Make sure that you're supporting not only my show, but the other shows that are part of the Intellectual Radio family, and continue to pour into those shows as we pour into you when you view us and when you're interested in what we got going on, when you're interested in what we're doing. So I wanted to share a little bit with you before we go into our guest. If you're blessed with something, stay on that, stick on that. I've experienced, right before coming into the show, had a conversation about a friend who asked for a lot. They were going through a lot, and they were blessed. They were blessed to come out of their situations. And as soon as we started getting into the conversation, there was a whole lot of negative on top of the positive that we were trying to discuss initially. So I just want to encourage you to not forget what you are asking the universe for, however you believe, whether, you believe in, God as a Christian, Allah as a, Muslim, whatever you believe in. Remember that what you ask for is what you release out into the universe to eventually come back to you, depending on how you are preparing yourself to receive what you're actually waiting for. So you can ask for a lot of things, put a lot of things out there. But if you don't prepare yourself to receive those positive things coming back to you, then you can miss out on what you actually put out there for you to receive at a later time. You can miss out on that. And if you do receive the blessings that you ask for, try not to layer it with a whole lot of negative this and negative that. Stay positive about your situation. We have a lot of practice, fortunately and unfortunately, but mostly fortunately, we have a lot of practice um, with staying positive in spite of a bad situation, or having a better outlook for a better outcome, no matter what you're going through, no matter what somebody's put you through. So I just want to encourage you all, when you do receive your blessing, be positive about the blessings that you receive, and try not to layer it with a lot of negative. And that's pretty much my take on that conversation I had coming in. That's what I wanted to share with you. And again, we're talking about women's health today. We'll be talking about women's health next week as well. We have a wonderful guest that'll be coming in next week by the name of Erica. Um, she's in the field of nursing, and she has a lot of information to give us about health. And again, your health is your wealth. If you are due for any type of checkups, if you're due for any type of blood work, as we call it, if you're due for any type of consultation when it comes to, weight training, or any type of health related situation that you have to get seen for, I would encourage you to get seen for it. Take your health seriously. We're not doctors. The majority of us are not doctors. We don't know what's going on internally with us. So we have to be careful about that self diagnosis thing. When in our communities, the communities of color, in our community, we self diagnose, unfortunately, all the time. Now, I'm not saying that there's not something to what we were taught, what's carried on through our families from tradition to tradition. But when it comes to different medications, when it comes to different sicknesses and ailments, we have to be very careful how we self medicate and self diagnose. Unless you've been to a medical school, unless you have those credentials to actually um, go through the whole process of knowing what you're talking about to make sure that you can stay with the situation all the way through from symptoms to the cure, I would advise all of you to get yourself checked out. Take your health seriously, especially for us that are getting a little bit older. We don't recover as quickly as we did when we were younger. We can't just shake things off like we were able to when we were younger. So I would really like to encourage all of you to take your health seriously. Find a healthcare provider. Um, get your house in order when it comes to what benefits you may have. Even if you don't have certain benefits, do the homework and find out how you can get the care that you need beyond the self medication stage or process. So, very important to take your health seriously. So, we're on the Denasha Harrison Show, intellectualradio.com. Again, 708 223 8953. When we come back from this quick music break, when we come back, we're going to have Queenie Love talking to you about her experiences. And again, remember, your health is your wealth. Be right back. Cause on the trouble water. You ain't got enough money to buy my soul. Ain't strong enough to stop me. I'm out of control. This the matrix, I'm Neo. I know that I know. I am that I am. That's why I speak so bold. On the verge of losing hope, had nowhere to go. Switch my style from singing vocals to magical flows. Studied the streets a little closer. One with the ghetto. Got wise as I got older. Unloaded the metal. New millennium rebel. After that federal dollar. Balanced the world on my shoulders. I know my soldiers will follow. We at war. Cause kids still dying in the streets at war. On the block running from the police at war. In the US, this ain't the Middle East at war. With the problems in my own community in the store. If the only way to fight an enemy, Lord, save my father from this bottom to Hennessy. With more can I give? I'm giving all of me. And for real, it's only getting hotter for me. Harder to see and harder to breathe. And there's only one remedy. I gotta be smarter than my enemies. In the water. Wade in the water, children, now wade in the water. God's full trouble. I'm being chased by demons, the triple team, exposed to false religions. I'm hated by jealous niggas that don't wanna see me living my life scarred from living home. Pulling up papers, chasing paper, no holds barred. Peace of mind, and yet to find my heart's cold. Got the friends, my last road dog turned me in. Because the war would never change. Who takes the blame for bad decisions? So many missing from following orders, cause ill giving got the world tripping. They push prison at us young niggas. That's why we haven't had triggers, won't let the war get us. I'm not alone with the way that I feel. It's like millions out the touching this steel, roaming the field. I am what I am, and best believe I'm following me. A guinea pig, I refuse to be. The streets got a hold on so many lost souls and sold. I pray to God he starts letting me go. No, I'm not a fool, and I'm definitely not following rules. Hoping that the Lord pulls me through. When I'm at the gates, standing before Christ, and he's flipping through the pages in the book of life. Final judgments being made as he look in my eyes. All I can vision is the wrong that I've done in my life. Close my eyes as I look back at the sky, the puzzle pieces. Demons to try to stop me, and all I wanted was freedom, better living for my people. Did you ever hear my cry? In my mind, I never understood why we were born to die. Die. Wade in the water, children, now wade in the water. God's own trouble, water. This one is suicide. I used to think with a pistol. Now I know the war's meant to Welcome back to the Denasha Harrison Show here on Intellectual Radio, IntellectualRadio.com. Feed your brain. So I'm very happy to have our guest on. Queenie, how are you?
Hey, Dinosha. Thank you so much. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to speak with you again. It's good to always speak with you, but especially about the subject that we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. I'm
So,
excited about it.
yeah, so am I. We're adjusting some things. So, talk to me about before we get into the health wealth conversation. Tell me about those two babies of yours. I'm not talking about the kids. I'm talking about the shows. So I was talking to a good friend of mine before going coming on about 2015 and where I was with the whole radio thing and that infamous show that they call Bar Talk. Talk to me about those two things.
Yeah, that's funny to just kind of reflect back. Yeah, 2015, I started Bar Talks here in my local community, and the concept was real simple, just setting up shop, in any bars or any spaces that would allow conversations to be held. And I wanted to face, the uncomfortable conversations, the ones that people needed to have but were uncomfortable about having them with the people that they needed to have them with. So I created a safe space that we could face those subject matters and bring people together. And that just, it just blew up into a space where we talked about everything and all things, and nothing was off limits. And adults just got in the room and we did what adults should do. So that was my one baby back then. And then when the pandemic hit in 2020, I decided to launch a podcast online. Actually, I started in 2019. I had the concept in 2019. I'm just going to go podcast and start recording virtually, and so I could reach further. I wanted to talk to people in Europe and Africa and, on different sides of the nation. And the only way I could see doing it at the time was utilizing the podcast space. And so by the time we got locked in 2020, it was like perfect. I had already started in 2019. I had taken the in person shows and folded them up, bagged them away, and became the relationship zone where I start talking, virtually, utilizing Zoom and other platforms. And then, so when the pandemic hit, I was already doing that on a regular. So I'm still with the relationship zone. I'm still doing that. But we're about to pivot again because I believe that we evolve. And for creators, it's okay if you do more than one thing. And so we are pivoting again and we're launching a new podcast. And it's just, again, to just have more reach, more conversations, and to widen the scope of topics that we tackle.
So more reach, more conversation, but same theme, bringing people together. Correct?
Togethering is super important, and that's what I'm good at.
I can concur with that. You are good with bringing people together. You're good with bringing the debate out of people too. If I can remember how some of those broadcasts went, but you're
Yeah,
very spirited from time to time. So,
yeah.
but I'm glad that you're still in the in the lane of bringing people together, doing what you're doing, allowing for your voice to be heard. And
Mhm.
what was surprising to me was what you've lent your voice to, not only out there in the media world, but on a personal level as well.
Mhm.
We talk about your health being your wealth. As long as I've known you to be a healthy, conscious person. Clean eating type individual, a person that loves to be out in nature, et cetera, et cetera. Uh, so you shared something very personal with people about an experience that you recently went to. Can you share that with the people?
Sure. Yeah, you're right. On TikTok and on Facebook, I shared my story because I'm a woman of a certain age. However, you are right. Very athletic. I mean, I'm not like the fitness model or any of those things. I'm very health conscious, athletic. I believe in doing the best where I am physically. And when you know better, you do better. So I am plant based and I've toggled back and forth in the last, I don't know, 15 years from pescatarian to vegetarian to plant based to vegan to alkaline vegan. And I always dance in between that. And the sweet spot for me is, pescatarian, but heavy on the vegetarian side, right? I try to limit dairy if I have any dairy at all. So that has been my life for the last almost 15 years or so. Probably a little longer if I really think about it. My kids are adults, so they grew up with that being the lifestyle. And yes, always, athletic. I grew up being super athletic, very weight conscious because I know what, my family structure as far as my parents, um, and the struggles that they had with their weight or down in the family line. So just been very aware of that, especially since I've been able to be in control of self and the food that I put in my body and the lifestyle that I choose to live. Well, like I said, get over 40, I start having issues. And my issues came from having fibroids, which a lot of women that are listening, they probably have heard or know about this. And the men, if you don't, then I suggest that you Google, study, research, because the women in your life are likely going to go through some of the things that I may share. So, and I think we all need to know how to take care of each other regardless. So I wound up having fibroids. And as a Black woman, didn't have enough information about the treatments that were out there at the time over the years. And so I had to do more research and I tried to manage my fibroid health with diet and exercise. And for a very long time, I feel that I was able to. I was still running marathons and doing all the things. And even though I had this mass that was growing in my uterus, I still was functioning okay. When the pandemic hit, like many of us, our health, took a turn, right? And mental health and wellness and all those things took a stress on the body and COVID and all these things began to change our bodies. We were, many of us were sitting at home. I know in the city we were sitting, we were at home. I know in some rural areas they still were able to move, but not here in heavily populated areas like the DC area. So sitting at home, I began to feel that my stomach was growing more, and I couldn't understand why. Several illnesses came from that. I started going in, getting all these different CAT scans and MRIs, and all these various scans, trying to figure out what was going on. I was having back issues. I was having side issues. I was having sciatic nerve issues. I was having pelvic floor issues, all right side, and I still noticed that my stomach was steady growing. I had a couple I went in and had a couple images done, and they said, well, they're larger than they were 6 years ago. They're way larger than they were, 10 years ago. And then I still was trying to figure out what I would do about it. Decided, okay, I'll wait, put it off because, we're in the middle of COVID. A couple of years later, 2023, I go in. And the reason why I go in is because now I'm having super heavy and long cycles, and they were not stopping. I felt like I was the woman with the issue of blood, and I just could not find a remedy. So I went in, had another image done, and they said, listen, they've tripled since the last time we saw you. So when you think about that, I was like, tripled? Huh. Maybe we're talking about 10 or 11, right? Okay, no problem. I'll do something about it. The pain got worse, and finally, I made up my mind. In October, I'm gonna go in. I'm set up my appointment, have surgery. Instead, when I went in, the doctors told me, "Well, we can't do the surgery the way that you want because of the size of your uterus." So I opted for a hormonal treatment. Got on a hormonal treatment along with the birth control, which was an attempt for them to shrink the fibroids so I could have the surgery laparoscopically. Ultimately, that medication, which I'm actually doing a show about this medication, that medication proved to have been not good for me. And I don't think enough studies are done. And they put me on this medicine and just basically sent me home.
Hmm.
So for about 6 months, I was in this hormonal treatment, and so about 4.5 months, I was in this hormonal treatment. About 2 months into the treatment, I had a blood clot that formed in my leg. And at the time, I wasn't certain because I had been complaining about so many side effects from this medication. I think the doctors were just tired of hearing me, to be honest, because the medication came with so many side effects, that it was like every day I was having a different situation happening with me. Um, Fast forward, went on through with the surgery, had the surgery I am 1 month post op actually today as I'm talking with you. But a week later after the surgery, I threw a blood clot. That clot went from it had gone from my leg. So it had actually traveled. It had been there the 2 months when I was having the issues. That was actually a blood clot that was in my leg. It traveled to my lung. I went back into the hospital uh, complaining of high blood pressure. I tell this story because I want people to understand that I wasn't presenting a blood clot when I went inside of the hospital. I didn't present like I had a blood clot. I presented like a person just had a headache. My blood pressure was elevated, and the doctor was going to send me home. And I remember him thinking, or even saying out loud, well, hypertension is this. And he began to talk to me on a very elementary level. And I looked at him and I said, so I've had managed hypertension for over 20 years. I really don't need to talk. I don't need you to talk to me like I'm in elementary school, like I've never dealt with blood pressure. I said, something else is wrong. This is the medication that I'm on. And this is what I'm feeling. And something's wrong. And I want to know if you're not going to treat me, then tell me that, because then I'll go and I'll let my family know if something happens, you've turned me away. And he then decided to go ahead and give me a CT scan. They gave me a CT scan, brain scan, because they wanted to know if I was having a stroke or, because I was telling them my head is really hurting and my blood pressure is super elevated, and it's never elevated like this in 20 plus years. So they wanted to immediately check me for a stroke, heart attack. So they ran me through all these things. When they gave me a CT scan with the contrast, they noticed that I had some particles in my jugular vein in my neck, because they did a CT scan in my head and my neck. They saw the particles immediately. They rushed into the room, and that same doctor said, we don't think there's a stroke happening here, but I think we got lucky because you have a pulmonary embolism. We can see the trash in your veins and your jugular. And I looked at him and I said, I don't think we got lucky.
Wow.
I believe that you took the time to listen, although you were going to send me home.
Right.
I thank you for listening. And, like I said, I share this story because you're right. I was physically active and all these things. And I go in for a surgery that millions of women are having, unfortunately, due to the same issue that I was having, which are fibroids. And our stories are vastly different. But when I went back into that hospital, that doctor was going to send me back home, and I had a clot that was moving through in my right lung, and he just never even thought that would be the issue. And several doctors came into my room after they admitted me and said, you just weren't presenting like someone with a blood clot. You weren't presenting that way. And I just looked at them, regardless of what I was presenting as a doctor, you should listen to the patient, listen to what they're saying. And so I want people to hear this, and I cannot stress it enough. Advocate for yourself. Put them on the spot. Make them tell you they're not going to take care of you. Make them tell you that they're not going to do anything. Make them say those words, because they take an oath to do no harm. And make them make a decision on you right then. If you feel something's wrong and they're going to turn you away, then you sit there and you make them make that decision consciously before you walk out that door. Otherwise, you need to make sure that they take care of you. If you're not feeling well, you stay there until someone sees you and take your word for what it is.
That's very well said. Very important. I believe, in true Queenie fashion, you're saying thank you for listening when the doctor said what he said, and you're better than most. It's
Yeah.
it's a shame and it's appalling to me, and I'm sure to others. You you had to advocate for yourself. What how many people have been in the same situation but didn't speak up and now are no longer here?
Yeah.
How many people uh, did not have the tribe, the community, the support,
Yeah.
the love, the platform to
Mm-hmm.
speak out about what they felt like their bodies were going through or is going through? How many people are not as educated to understand how to articulate what they're feeling and are no longer here today because of a doctor not listening? Now, we're not going to beat up on doctors, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
they're amazing people who do amazing things, but we do have an issue in our community where we don't have the same support for advocation as other people do. So I'm so glad that you spoke up and spoke out about how you were feeling, because you could have went home and never woke up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So and of course, I didn't know that you were going through all of that. Um, and you did share on the platforms that you mentioned what you were going through. So with that, w- why do you feel a need to be so public about your private experience?
Yeah. So, again, I face the tough conversations and the things that make us uncomfortable. I talk about it, right? In my family, the women in my family did not talk about their female struggles, female issues. On my mother's side and on my father's side. And I remember my dad, I remember when my stepmom had gone to the hospital years ago. They're both since deceased, but years ago, I remember calling him and saying, "Hey, where's Mom D at?" He said, "Oh, she's gone to the hospital. She's having some type of issues." Or I said, "Well, what's wrong?" "Oh, it's female issues." I remember him saying that, and he just kept going. Um, and I've always thought about what does female issues mean. I'm a
Right.
female, right? But I never understood when my father could not articulate what was going on with his wife. Um, it always baffled me. And so when I started going through this, I would, in secret places, I would talk to women, and I realized that so many women were going through something similar or had gone through it or had recovered from it. And then I was like, well, dang, why no one talks about it? Like, that's weird to me, right? I get it. I understand that we have private matters and sure, some things should remain private, but how will my daughter know about her wound if I don't teach her what I know about mine?
Hmm.
And I realized, like, in today's age, we don't always have aunties and grandmas and people that's, like right here in close proximity. But I grew up even having them in close proximity, and they didn't talk about things like that. So I'm like, all right, we have a platform. The internet has all kind of crazy stuff out there that is doing us no good, oftentimes causing plenty harm. Well, if I'm going to have a platform, I'm going to send information out that hopefully people can use. Hey, guess what? I'm dealing with fibroids, period. You know what that looks like? It looks like this every day. See my stomach? So I had that conversation. And since I've created that space and openness, and then I've created these support groups on Facebook, we are constantly letting new members in because people need a place to discuss the things that they're going through. Otherwise, you feel like you're alone. So that's why I went public. I wanted a space for me to talk, for others to chime in, because I was scared and I was alone. So I thought until I started talking about it. And I realized, nope, there's a lot of us going through this. A lot of women are struggling with this. And men don't necessarily know what their women are going through.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
why not talk about it?
yeah, I think it's very important that men do educate themselves on these matters as well. And as you said, some things they remain private, but if you have someone um, to partner with you during these
Hmm.
type of times to help you advocate, then it's a false multiplier, right? It's something
Absolutely.
that it's us being able to step in on some of these issues can definitely share the load when it comes to the stress, ease some things as far as the worry, and we should be a part of that process. I believe that if you have someone in your life that any type of medical issue, you should go in together so that you can support one another, especially with something as serious and
Yeah.
as common as fibroids.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So a lot of amazing information. That's I'm glad that you shared. At first, when I saw what was on the platform, I had to make sure I had the right person. Right. I'm like, wait, huh? What? Say what? And I'm reading, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I'm looking. I'm like, okay. And then as you know, I think I DM'd you and just
Hmm.
asked specifically, how's everybody?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
time to time we talk, not as often because I don't live out east anymore, but you're always on my radar because you're always doing wonderful things not only for your family but for the community as well. And we've always stayed connected. So
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you came out and you're coming out um, on the positive side of things when it comes to this. Now,
Yeah.
tell me a little bit more about the group that you created um, for health awareness concerning your
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm part of it's a group of three. Well, three creators, but it's a girls' talk, women's health on Facebook, and it's a space where again we just drop information from menopause to, like I said, womb health, mental health. We're just dropping just any information that we personally are going through. Like I said, it's three of us. We talk about um, miscarriages and the effects that have on women, hot flashes, and the different treatments that we've tried, or whomever in the group has tried, and so we are women, welcoming everyone, but definitely women of color to join, to know that they're not alone, to come in and either drop knowledge or pick up knowledge. Right? We just created a space that's safe for you to share. And, something that I talk the most about is even though I'm not in menopause, the medicine that I was on to treat my fibroids at the time threw me into a temporary menopause. So although I'm not officially by nature in menopause, I had the same, uh, symptoms of menopause. And so I was able, unfortunately, to talk about menopause, even though I wasn't really in it. I had this false menopause that they put me in. And so there, I had an opportunity to do a lot of studying and research, and I would drop information in and ask anyone if they had heard about this or that. I was trying all types of things because I was suddenly in menopause. And even though now I'm back out of that phase because I'm in recovery now, that was just the space that I decided to share. I shared about fibroids. I shared about certain foods that trigger fibroids growth, that's believed to trigger fibroid growth. And then of course there are other ladies that talk about wound care and talk about just taking sexual health. So everybody has their own niche, and so it's just a safe space for women that want a small intimate group. It's not a lot of fluff that drops in there, not a lot of distraction or no craziness. It really is just focused on our own personal everyday female struggles as it relates to our women's health and sexual health, and as my dad say, female problems.
So besides a platform such as this, talking about health, wealth, and besides your platforms when it comes to connecting people and communicating abroad, as well as here at home. I'd also like to mention us being familiar with politics,
Hmm.
especially the East Coast politics that we've been involved in when it comes to the different races and the different campaigns that were going on while we were both out there. So, with that, um, are you concerned that with the platform that you have about health, that politics will get entangled in the mix? Are you encouraging politics to be a part of the discussion? For example, Roe v. versus Wade, women's health being on the ballot. How do you see your platform being a part of those type of politics, or do you even want your platform to be involved with anything political?
So in 2016, I kind of stepped away from politics as you know me to have been in it.
Hmm.
I won't even bother to explain why, but I had to take a hard turn um, in 2016. So now what I see, what I've learned is there is definitely a disconnect with politics and certain areas in women's health, if not all areas, but I know specifically certain areas. And I also think that more studies need to be done. That means we need more money for more research and more focus and more concentration to understand women are a huge part of the workforce. And if we don't take care of women, imagine what it's going to look like at some point, right? But we got to take care of women's health, and we have to have insurance to do so. We have to have the money for studies. We have to have the time off from work. We have to have those things because when it comes to men, a lot of men issues are covered and are taken care of, and some things just go without even saying, right? They just are, unfortunately. So we do, I don't spend a lot of time in the political space now, and definitely I don't connect the two as often. However, when I do see an individual running, especially in my local area, and they include us, then I perk up because I want to know what that looks like, right? I want to know what, because also I'm not just do I want to know what it looks like. I want to also get at the table just in case they're missing something. And I
Right.
want to get to the table to see exactly what is on the table. Because if they are missing something, then maybe I can, as I've always done, I've always just, pushed a little something else in there for them to
Nudged.
consider.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's kind of always been my way, and just get myself in the door and at the table, and then present another, opinion, or another, problem to solve for politicians. I have not done the connection as much, but me, I've been talking in spaces, and it's that season and time. And so we have a few people that are running currently, and I'm listening for what it looks like for women. We have a lot of women that are running. And
Hmm.
so I'm listening to see what they're talking about and how they're connecting. But listen, at the end of the day, when I just look at fibroids on its face, there's not enough studies done for fibroid health. And that has to change, because when I'm in Reddit, or if I'm on Reddit, or if I'm in Quora, if I'm looking at these chat rooms, there's millions and millions of conversations that are being had about fibroid health, about just so many other female, uterine wound issues. And so that's just important. It's important. And I think we must begin to see it as a real issue that needs more, as you said, political attention as well.
Very well said. I believe that for our women who served overseas and who was stationed, here at home, there's a
Hmm.
lot of studies that are being done about the different areas, Gulf War syndrome, for example, or the tainted
Yes.
water at Camp Lejeune in North
Yes.
Carolina.
Or
Um,
burn pits.
the burn pits that
Yeah.
we've all had turns, you know, doing, those honeypots.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
it's so important that we take a look at women's health in regards to where they serve, because it affects them differently than it does us. Although we all should get checked out, and we all should make sure that um, that we document the things that have happened to us in the different places that we've been, from the different uh, atmospheres that we've served in, to all the different shots that we've taken to go into those different environments. There's a lot to be considered when it comes to women's health. And I'm so
Yeah.
glad that we're having this conversation and that we're talking about it. And I just want to remind everybody, if they're just joining us, this is the Denasha Harrison Show. I have Queenie Love with me on IntellectualRadio.com. And before we wrap, I want to take one really quick break. We're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to go ahead and continue talking about this topic and wrap up. So stay with us. Thank you for joining us. This is the Denasha Harrison Show, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes.
You ain't got enough money to buy my soul. Ain't strong enough to stop me. I'm out of control. This the matrix, I'm Neo. I know that I know. I am that I am. That's why I speak so bold. On the verge of losing hope, I know where to go. Switch my style from singing vocals to magical flows. Study the streets a little closer. One with the ghetto. Got wise as I got older. Unloaded the metal. New millennium rebel. After that federal dollar. Balance the world on my shoulders. I know my soldiers are following me at war. These kids still dying in the streets at war. On the block running from the police at war. In the US, this ain't the Middle East at war. With the problems in my own community and the swore. If the only way to fight an enemy, Lord, save my father from this bottom to Hennessy. What more can I give? I'm giving all of me, and for real, it's only getting hotter for me. Harder to see and harder to breathe, and there's only one remedy. I gotta be smarter than my enemies. In the water, wade in the water, children, now wade in the water. God's in trouble. I'm being chased by demons, the triple team, exposed to false religions. I'm hated by jealous niggas that don't wanna see me living my life scarred from living hope. Pulling up papers, I'm chasing paper, no holds barred. Peace of mind, and yet to find my heart's cold. Got no friends, my last road dog turned me in. Because the war would
Welcome
never
back to the
change.
Denasha Harrison Show on
Blame
Intellectual
so
Radio. Again, 708-223-8953. If you're just joining us, we've been talking about women's health. Your health is your wealth. Not just women's health, but health overall. So your health is your wealth. We have Queenie Love as our guest, and she shared her experiences with some things that she's gone through from her health perspective. Queenie, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
So it's been wonderful conversation. I'm glad that you've joined us, and we're back. And so I wanted to make sure that we were covering all the things that we've discussed before. And if you could, when we went to the break, there were some things that we talked about. So I'd like to continue the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So we talked about not
Mhm.
only women's health, but health overall. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I want to make sure that the listeners know that it's not that I just focus solely on women's health. I mean, I'm a woman and that's my priority for sure. Um, but in about, I think about 3 weeks from now, I'll be hosting a show that focuses on men's health. And I am very curious about the rise in prostate cancer, especially in African American men at a younger age. And I have a urologist and another gentleman that is a doctor that specializes in men's health. They're both coming to my show, and um, one, I'm curious, and two, I like to provide subject matter experts when I can that are accessible because we don't always get an opportunity to talk with doctors extensively, and sometimes it's just a quick, 10 minutes, if that, in a physical. So you don't really get a chance to really talk, and you go home and you think about all these questions you should have asked, and now it's too late. You gotta wait 4 months before you can see them again. And
Mm.
so I'm hosting the show in hopes to, as I said, one, feed my curiosity and so I can understand, and I can, hopefully help my son, who is a young man, and I can let him know what I learned. But also for others to follow the show and to talk and to reach out to the doctors that will be on the panel at the time and ask the questions that you're interested in knowing about, because I do see there's a huge rise, especially in Black men, but men of all races are having an increased rise in risk of prostate cancer and or an enlarged prostate, and they're having to get treatment, and their lives are changing. And just like women, we're all going through something, and the older we get, the more things we're going through, and oftentimes we don't understand. And so we can't even, you can't have empathy, or you don't know, you don't have the information to know what it's like to be a man that's facing an enlarged prostate or actually having to get it removed. So I want to bring that conversation center and just get a better understanding and put information out there.
Well, I'm looking forward to that conversation. It does seem like when we go to get our health checks that you're processed through. It's very seldom that the conversation that is had with the doctor, that you actually spend time discussing, not only the potential situation, but a space to entertain those questions that you may have. You want to be comfortable and you want to be open enough to actually ask those questions in that moment, because as you said, you go home with all these questions because the opportunity was not presented for you to actually get it all out in front of the person who's actually responsible along with you for your care. So I think it's very important that we create a culture to where we don't feel like we're being processed through. And if we're experiencing that, to know how to slow that down to where we are actually a part of the conversation concerning our health. Too many times, we're not a part of the conversation that involves our health. We're getting processed through, and we're sacrificing valuable information for the sake of a process. And so I think it's very important that you will be having that. So let us know how we can be a part of that conversation. Where can we go? What do we have to do to get involved with that? And also, if you can share other information about your different platforms, that would be great.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I wish I had everything streamlined like I used to, but because of different transitions, I do not. However, there's two tabs you can find me under. You can go to the relationship zone, which is on. That's my podcast, and that is over off of Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast, but it's also on YouTube and Facebook. So if you put in the relationship zone, you can just Google it. It will show up and it'll show you where you can find me. And then also, I am Queenie Love, and that is on all the other social media platforms, which is I underscore am underscore Queenie, QUEENIE underscore love. So you can find me on Instagram, Facebook. Those are my personal pages where I just kind of hang out. On TikTok, where I hang out and I share all kinds of things. Because relationships, the center of my conversation is relationships and together and informing people, right? So in any and all those spaces, that's what you're going to find. So check me out. I am Queenie Love on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or the relationship zone. Either one of those will lead directly to me.
I really appreciate the time. I know you're a busy lady, so I really appreciate the time that you spent with us coming on to talk about something so important. And most importantly, I'm glad that you actually shared your personal story with everybody. And I encourage you to continue to do so. And we're going to continue to keep this conversation going. Next week, we're going to be talking about the importance of health, just like we did today. My next guest coming on next week is going to be Erica, who's in the profession of healthcare. So I'm really looking forward to that. But thank you so much for joining us. And I'm looking forward to speaking with you again next time on this platform or your platform or wherever you are going to be talking about something, because you always have a town hall feel to your discussions. And it's a good vibe, and I really appreciate all that you do for the community and for this area. So thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
on.
absolutely, Dinasha. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we'll talk to you soon.
Uh-huh. Sure thing.
All right.
Have a
Take
good night.
you too. Take care.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an amazing guest, amazing topics, right? We're going to keep it going again. As I said before, we're going to go ahead and keep this conversation going. Next week, we'll be talking about health. Your health is your wealth, and specifically women's health. So we'll be talking about that again next week. From 8 to 9, I'm back on my regular time. So thank you for joining the Denasha Harrison Show here on Intellectual Radio. And again, if you want to support intellectualradio.com, go ahead and go to the page, press donate, and pick a show. We're all one family, one love. We're all feeding the brain. So 224-800-9719 is the number that you can also reach me at on the Denasha Harrison Show. Give me a call if you want to support, donate, or just have a conversation beyond tonight from 8 to 9. So thank you for joining us. I really appreciate the time that you spent with us here on the Denasha Harrison Show. And I will see you next week. And remember to always feed your brain and remember that your health is your wealth. So we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.